One of the most unique shoes to run in, one of the most unique shoes to even stand in, one of those shoes that quite frankly can be a little bit intimidating just by how odd and different it is from what else is out there. And that is what makes this shoe so interesting.
Hi everybody and welcome to another video. My name is Matt and this is What Matters to Matt. And that's right, on today's video we are taking a look at the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 by Mizuno. And as I'm holding this up to the camera, I think you can probably see that I've only had this on a couple of runs and it is dirty. So if you're somebody who is really into keeping clean shoes, I apologize for this. I had to take it out on the run. Shoes are meant to be worn and I haven't had the chance to clean it yet. So here we are. Just to get a disclosure out of the way, Mizuno was kind enough to send me this shoe for the purpose of review. However, they're not telling me what to say in this video. My thoughts and my opinions are definitely my own. And we're going to go down through the upper, the midsole, and the outsole. And if after watching this video, getting my opinions, and watching several other shoe reviews on the Mizuno Pro 3, and if you're lucky enough to be somebody who actually gets to try this on before you take it and spend your hard-earned cash, you're able to feel like you made the right or wrong decision in purchasing this shoe. After I get through the upper, the midsole, and the outsole telling you what I like and dislike about this shoe, I'm gonna let you know whether it's still gonna fit into my shoe rotation and where exactly that is going to be. It is a great shoe. It is a unique shoe. That's a little bit of a spoiler. And it is something different than anything else that I've ever run in, with the exception of the Pro 2. We've got the other ones right here over my shoulder. This shoe and this shoe have a lot of similarities. We'll go over a couple of differences as we go down through this. I'm really excited for this one. If you can't tell, let's get into the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3, and we're going to start with that upper. The upper of the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Now this for the most part, 95% of the upper on the shoe is exactly what I want out of a race shoe. For me, this one fits true to size. I have a US men's size 13, and I get about a thumb's width here at the end of the shoe. Plenty of room for me to be able to display my toes. Some folks found that the Rebellion Pro 2 was a little bit on the short end and you might want to size up half a size. But for me, I didn't have that issue. I'm kind of between a 12.5 and a 13. So it might be something you want to pay attention to, but fit true to size for me. I have a medium to low volume foot and this fit snug around my foot like you'd expect a race shoe to feel, but not too snug. When it comes to the lacing system of the Pro 3, quite standard. You're going to get some just normal laces here, no real funny business here. And in the Pro 3, actually one difference that they have between the 3 and the 2 is that you're actually able to put a runner's knot in this up here. I hope that's coming out on the screen. With the Rebellion Pro 2, for whatever reason, they decided not to include that. So one big upgrade and something that I'm really happy that they did here. We do have an engineered mesh. It's really breathable. Not the most breathable upper, but what you give up in breathability, you gain back in comfort. Really comfortable upper for the most part. We'll get to that in a sec. The tongue is kind of what you'd expect out of a lot of race shoes these days. There's no padding. It's just this thin piece of leather, and you definitely won't be able to see this, but it is non-gusseted. But it does have lace loops here. I keep bringing the shoe up to camera probably a little bit too much, but I want to make sure you guys get to see this. There are lace loops that lock that in place. And unlike some other shoes with that really thin tongue, I didn't get any lace bite with this, and it wasn't really moving around, and it wasn't that fidgety to get my foot in and get laying over top of the foot. One of my favorite shoes of all time, it's not here, the Adidas Adios Pro 3 had one of these thinner tongues, and it was a pain. It was a pain when you lace that up every time because this would always kind of fold over on itself, and you just don't get this here. So really well done, Mizuno, with the upper for the most part. We'll get to that most part in a sec. I keep saying it, but around the heel collar here, again, not a lot of padding until you get to this little bumper that you have inside the back of the heel here that goes all the way to the back, even includes a spot in the back, and that fits really comfortably. Your heel is able to get right into that. If you do a heel lock on this shoe like I do, you've got all of that stack in the midsole, so you really want to lock your foot down on this platform, and you're able to do that. Heel sits nicely. I don't really get any heel lift, but that brings me to the one problem that I have with this entire upper, and that is back here. Back here on this heel, you got a lot of structure, which is good, holds the heel in really nicely, but this little tab, your heel, for me at least, really rubs quite badly right there. I've taken this on a couple of runs, so this is still very much first impressions. I'm going to take it out for a workout here in the next couple of days, but I took it out on what ended up being about a 20-kilometer run, maybe, 12 miles, and it were mile repeats, and then I had some 400-meter repeats, and I loved a lot about that run. But after I was finished, I had a really irritated Achilles. I had taped it up because I sensed that it was going to be an issue. I had put some bandages there. I had worn a long sock that had a little bit extra padding, and still I get a lot of rubbing in the heel, and that's not something normal for me. The best I can tell is that when I look at this and it's sitting flat on the ground, that the way this arches in, and it was only on one of my feet, my left foot, the other shoe, but the way this arches in and the rigidity that you have back here just dug into my Achilles in a certain way that caused a bad blister. Had a little bit of irritation on the right foot. The left shoe had a lot of irritation. Actually, still a little bit of a stain there. I did actually end up with a little bit of blood in that heel. But it wasn't enough to keep me running in the shoe because of that midsole, and we'll get to the midsole in a sec. Upper, overall, really, really well done, Mizuno. Just have to figure out what went on here because I didn't have that in the second one, and hopefully I can resolve the issue. I think after wearing it for a few more runs, this will soften up just enough for me to be able to wear it. All right, let's move on talking about that midsole. Now we get to talk about the midsole, because the midsole is what truly makes this shoe very different from anything else that I've run in. And it starts with just how much foam is here. Now, if you look at the back here, this is still legal. If you are more than a mere mortal, if you are a much faster runner than me, and you're concerned about whether you're running in a legal shoe or not, you are able to run in this if you're looking at running in races, because where they measure that 40 millimeters maximum stack height is somewhere back here. By the time you get down to where my foot hits the ground, right around midfoot, you're well over 40 millimeters. You're more north of 60, probably 65 in my men's size 13, but 40 millimeters in the heel, 36 millimeters in the forefoot for a 4 millimeter drop. Throw all that out the window because you're looking more like 60 millimeters here in the midfoot, and who knows what that drop is. And it is very, very unique to run in. One of the things I will say is that if you do, I mentioned at the first of this video, if you get to try this on in the store, it's going to feel unique. If you get to go for a little jog in this, it's going to feel unique. It's going to feel a little bit weird. It's going to feel a little bit different. You might want to give it a chance though, because for me, every time I put this on after I've been running in almost anything else, it feels foreign. It feels a little bit awkward. But after I do that first rep, after I do a couple of strides and get into my run, it feels good. Yeah, and we'll talk about where I'm going to use this in the future. But so 40 millimeters in the heel, 36 millimeters in the forefoot, 4 millimeter drop, whatever. Mizuno is using Mizuno's Energy XP foam here. It is a nitrogen infused supercritical foam, and it is bouncy and it is soft. It's quite a bit softer than the Energy Light Plus. I had to read that to remember what it was. Energy Light Plus that we had in the Rebellion Pro 2. It's quite a bit softer. They've done a couple of things differently here. In the 3, they've moved where this actually comes up further back in this shoe. It's flat, a little bit of a bump, and then it goes up drastically. In the 2, that actually starts, that cutout starts further forward, and it gradually goes up and cuts back. And that difference you notice, because in the 3, because it starts a little bit later and it's flat here, I actually feel that more in the 3. Because they've created a little bit more of a bump and a more drastic turn up here at the back where it's cut out, you feel that more in the 3. Now, if you're a heel striker, you can still wear this shoe. You'll feel it, but you roll through quite quickly and you're able to toe off. If you're a rear foot to midfoot striker, it's going to feel even better. If you're a midfoot striker, this shoe feels really good. If you're a midfoot forefoot striker, it feels okay. If you're a forefoot striker, it feels like an okay shoe, but not a super shoe. Super shoe right here. Feels as good, almost as good as anything else that I've ever run in. Anything beyond that, it feels pretty good to okay. What that means is for me, if I'm running really fast paces, 5K or faster, really fast relative to me, you don't quite get the same energy return out of the shoe. You don't get the full benefit of that foam. There are other shoes that I would like to run if I'm doing something really, really fast. And if I'm running easy, laying you back here towards the heel doesn't feel that great either. But if I am running marathon pace, half marathon pace, 10K pace, this feels really good. If I'm engaging that foam, I'm getting that smooth speed assist of that carbon plate running through the middle of the shoe, and I'm rolling through to my forefoot and toeing off, it feels really good. The concern I have is if I was to take this to a full marathon distance, am I going to have the wherewithal? Is my form going to remain good enough that I'm getting the full benefit of this shoe? Because once you move away from that midfoot, landing on that midfoot to forefoot, it still feels okay, but it turns into less of a super shoe for me, if that makes any sense. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this midsole is that I really like it. I think it's soft, I think it's bouncy, I think because of the geometry that Mizuno has gone with Wave Rebellion Pro 2 and the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, is that if you are a midfoot to forefoot striker, this could be a very, very good option for you to use on race day at practically any distance. So we've talked about the upper, we've talked about the midsole. Let's move on to talking about the outsole. And you can see right off the bat that this is a fairly aggressive, not deep, but aggressive pattern that they've got going on here, and it grips really, really well. Now, I don't want to say anything about the durability because I've only got about 80 kilometers in this so far, just a few runs, and we'll see. Time will tell after I've got a few more runs in it. But right now, not really seeing much wear and tear at all on this outsole. So I feel like it's going to last a reasonable amount of time. It's not going to be the first thing that's going to go on this shoe. A couple of things I will mention if you're familiar with the Pro 2 is that in the Pro 2 you will see that they have this giant gap here in the bottom of the shoe where you can see the carbon plate. In the 3, they've filled in up here in the forefoot. Now that does a couple of different things. First, it creates more of a stable platform, more solid platform for you to land on. If you're landing on your forefoot, it also feels more stable as you're rolling through to toe off, even if you're a midfoot heel striker. And that does feel more solid. It feels more stable. So if you're somebody who's worried about which one of these is going to be more stable, even though this is a softer foam, it feels more stable. A little bit easier to run in, I'd say, than the 2. The 2 feels a little bit more aggressive. It's not just this huge gap. It's also that the 2 is narrower all the way throughout the shoe. The 2 is narrower than the 3. So they filled in that gap and they've made it wider all the way throughout in the 3. And that makes the shoe something that I'm more able to consider for longer distances, for the marathon or for the half marathon, or for a shoe that if I'm starting to fall apart towards the end of a race where I've given it everything I got, that it's a shoe that suddenly becomes part of the conversation. The 2 to me, where it was a little bit firmer foam, it was narrower. This gap that they have down here, the midsole cutout that they have here, everything about the 2 to me felt actually a little bit more aggressive. I get better toe off with this and it feels a little bit softer and it feels like something that is a little bit less wild. Some people aren't going to like that. Some people are going to like the wildness of this, and I get the reasons why. It looks like a wild shoe, both of these do, but this one has moved into the realm of I would consider it for the long distances. Okay, so at the end of the day, where does this fit into my shoe rotation? Well, right now it fits into a shoe that I'm going to take out for a few more workouts. I'm going to build some confidence running in the shoe, and if I can figure out that heel problem, it's going to stay in my rotation. It's going to be something that I'm either going to just be using for workouts, or if it starts to feel more like a shoe that I can have confidence in, that I can take on race day and I can take advantage of landing midfoot and getting all that foam working for me, it could be a marathon racer. I don't want to quite go there yet because I feel like I've got other options. I just have confidence that are going to go the distance for me better than this shoe. But it's so much fun to run in. When you lock into that pace, when you hit it right in this shoe, it's It's a unique feel that I haven't felt in any other shoe. All right, so at the end of the day, the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is a fun shoe that I think a lot of people out there, if they give it a chance, they're really gonna like. I think if you're somebody who needs any ounce of stability, I know I talked about this being a little bit more stable than the 2. You really have to consider the geometry of the shoe, the amount of stack that you have underfoot. This is not a stable shoe. This is definitely a race day shoe that if you're taking a course that has a lot of tight turns, you might want to look somewhere else. If you're anybody who needs any lick of stability, you're going to want to look somewhere else. But if you're somebody who wants something unique, something different, and you're interested in taking a risk on a shoe that might work really, really well for you, it might be something to consider. You can take with that information what you will. Fun shoe to run in. I'm going to go run it in the next couple of days. If you want to see how that all turns out, if you want to know whether this is going to end up in my rotation for a long time, you're going to have to stick around. Subscribe to this channel. Check out some of my other videos. Hopefully you get some value out of that. Guys, my name is Matt. This has been What Matters to Matt, my review of the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Ultimately, what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you guys in the next video.